Welcome to the Web3 Weekly Podcast. I'm your host, Charles Dean, and today we have Juan, a leading figure in Web3 gaming. Discover Juan's journey from college to leading gaming business development at Thridweb. Learn about the importance of community and infrastructure in Web3 gaming. If you're into Web3, gaming, or crypto, this episode is packed with insights. Stay for Juan's insights on Web3 gaming challenges, opportunities, and future innovations. This episode is a must listen for anyone curious about Web3 gaming.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing Web3 weekly podcast. So today we have someone who is in the front end, who's the community facing, the front facing of amazing crypto ecosystem platform, which we have dealt in the past ourselves as well. But the person who we are talking today is Juan, who have amazing career into the space, and you're gonna like this one. Coming from you have the Ronan side. Yeah. So I think you'll have more questions than anyone else, Charlie. So further ado, let's get started. So today we are joined by Juan from Thridweb. So Juan, I would pass the mic to you so that you can give a little bit about who you are, and then we can dig into how you got here, your journey, and what you're doing, and all that stuff. Off to you, my friend.
Sounds good. First of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure always being able to talk to other legends in the space who are looking to push the space forward. We're in a really critical part of specifically the Web3 gaming market evolving, and it's really exciting to see, and it's exciting to be at the forefront of that. For everyone who doesn't know who I am, my name is Juan. I go by JRP online, and I've been working in the Web3 gaming space now for more than 3 years. It's kind of funny you mentioned my career, because my only career that I have had has been Web3 gaming. As a junior in college, I started my own Web3 guild within Axie Infinity that taught me a lot of the skills that I needed and taught me what I needed to know about the technology to actually make a career from Web3 gaming. My senior project was actually raising money for a Netmarble FNC subsidiary guild who was doing R&D for Netmarble.
So cool.
And we raised around $750,000 and deployed some of that into Axie, deployed a lot of the rest of that into other games, and then also worked on our own product. After realizing that the guild model just simply wasn't going to work, it really was more of an esports model. I decided to take a step back and try to figure out what was next for me in the space. I realized that infrastructure was really, really important. And so I ended up being head of partnerships at ReNFT, spent a year there before ultimately then moving to Puerto Rico, actually deciding to step away from my role at ReNFT and starting my own company, Rev, where we help actually match KOLs with Web3 games to have more effective marketing, specifically go-to-marketing, since everybody uses kind of community marketing nowadays. And then more recently became kind of leading gaming BD here at Thridweb. Thridweb being a fully kind of open source platform that helps game developers actually implement Web3 into their game in the most seamless way possible. And so, again, very excited to be here. Some Ronan talk, love Ronan. I think that there's a lot of things again happening in the space where people are really pushing the boundaries, and it's exciting to see, and looking forward to have the conversation.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much for coming on board, like the podcast, because I think that you recently started doing some videos, which is really cool. You know what I mean? So I guess I see a lot of people now breaking away from, maybe the people I follow actually, breaking away from just being a PFP, just being text-based, now doxing and really coming out and sharing a lot more content. So let's just dig a little bit into that stuff. So you are in the community space and you build a guild, and now you're coming here and then you're really sharing what's happening in your life as well on those videos. What was the reason for that? What was the build up to this?
It's a great question. I think as I started off in the space, I learned that Web3 was all about community. And the best way to be a part of that community is to kind of have your own and kind of have your own brand in the space. From a BD level, it was much easier to get into conversations with when people knew who you were. And there was a point actually when I went to ETH Denver last year where I had met up with Max, actually, who currently is working at Helica. And he said, like, the number one way for you to get leads is to have that person see your face over and over and over again until they almost can't say no to a call. And so that's what really sparked my passion for creating content. And I think outside of that, I'm someone who wants to run for politics one day. And so I think that like that really starts to kind of match together with speaking to an audience, starting to create your own brand. And about 6 months ago, I ran into this thing, JRP. Like I usually went by Juan before, but for some reason, like the JRP kind of stuck and kind of became part of my brand. And more recently, as you mentioned, like started creating more video content to share a lot more of the knowledge that I have in the space. Again, working full time and talking to possibly like 4 game developers on an everyday basis. You learn a lot, and there's a lot that is currently happening that I want to share with others in the space, so that hopefully we can all kind of raise the tides and kind of bring up all boats, right? That we really need that right now. There's not enough market to fight against each other, but rather we need to start working with each other to figure out like what is best for what is currently happening.
100%, right? So with Axie, so when did you really start with Axie? Was it like very, very early stages of Axie, or was it like what was that journey with Axie? How did you first of all got on board of Axie?
Right. Yeah, so I actually started at NBA Top Shot. I was a big basketball fan, kind of Warriors, ever since like obviously they started winning a lot. I was born and raised in California, so like I was from the Bay Area. And so I remember kind of it was during the pandemic, just kind of going through the internet and seeing this like Steph Curry card going for like $15. It's like, hey, that looks cool. I think I want to own this. I don't really know why, but I'm just going to go ahead and buy it. And for that to like 5x overnight, and it was just like, oh wow, like there's something here, like the financial aspect of this. And so that kind of started to really make me curious on like what is the actual tech behind this. And ultimately, as things started to expand, it went from NBA Top Shot to Bored Ape Yacht, or like to Punk's Bored Ape Yacht Club, like a whole bunch of other projects. I just didn't really see the benefit of those. The only real benefit that I saw was when I came across Axie, because of the utility that the NFT had in game. Obviously, that then spurred this whole idea of tokenomics and inflation and play to earn. And so that was really cool to see. I was probably after the first, like the biggest run up and starting to come down in terms of like AXS. And that's when I started joining and kind of seeing, hey, can this actually be sustainable? Back in the day, we all thought it was, and it wasn't at the end of the day. But we learned a lot about making connections, networking. What does it mean to be a Web3 game? What does it mean to be a speculator? What does it mean to be a player? And so all of those things are starting to rise up again now that there's actual games that people are wanting to play and are really excited to start getting into, the ecosystem, right? There's so much that a Web3 game offers outside of the actual game that is starting to be explored by so many people. And so I'm really excited to see how these games actually are become better than just regular games. And I think we're going to get there really quickly because we just fundamentally have different user data. We understand the gamer much differently because of what is on the blockchain. And once we're able to actually understand how we can get to that gamer much quicker and make those connections happen, and it's going to be the lowest user acquisition compared to Web2 that is now skyrocketing because of privacy laws, right? And so like once I started diving into like not only Web3 gaming, but just gaming in general, right? Like we saw like gaming innovates the fastest in any market. And we see that gaming is usually someone that leads the market when it comes to new innovations that happen that ultimately are adopted by consumerism or social or just anything consumer, really. And so I knew I wanted to start in gaming, and that's why I dove deeper into Axie.
Yeah. And I think the gaming has really leveled up. Like before Axie, there was no really much games. It was like, Sandbox, Decentraland, and they were sort of still not even gameable, be able to playable.
Yeah.
And then Axie really brought that to the forefront in the last bull run, which was actually funny. I remember seeing AXS all over my timeline on Twitter. Like that must have been 2020, 2021. I'm like, why is everyone suddenly talking about the Australian Stock Exchange? Because that's what And it took me a while to figure out. And then like Axie had already sort of started blowing up. I'm like, oh, I missed that one. But it was that really cool, like actual playable game, like the Pokemon battle simulation. And with the mix of COVID blew up even more. Everyone's stuck at home. And I think from Axie to the games that I'm seeing now, and you'd know a lot more, Juan, with you working with them, they're getting so much better. Like, what's the shooter?
The
Shrapnel, like that's like next level. No one thought about that like 5 years ago of that quality. And especially on the developer side with Thridweb making it a lot easier to plug into, say, Unity.
Exactly right. The thing that we were missing before, and if you were around in the bear market, everybody said this, like, we need to create games for mass adoption, right? And there's two things to that. You need to have the game, and then you need to have the tech. And so to develop a game, it takes forever. We've seen that, right? Even
a proper game, a proper game.
A proper game takes a long time. And I think when we then thought about like the infrastructure that was there, we still didn't have it. We're barely moving into this market where the companies that are going to lead are going to be horizontally integrated, not vertically. And so in the past, in the last 2 years, all of the infrastructure companies have been vertically integrated. And so now everybody's starting to expand their product offering. And it's been really interesting to see kind of who is going to lead there. Obviously, kind of biasly, I think Thridweb will. There's so many developers that are currently building on Thridweb and so many games already using our technology that we've shown that we are the best in market. And there's so many more things coming that I'm really excited about. But at the same time, we need to have those games that are actually launching, that are getting developed by teams that actually have an understanding of what it means to create a game, right?
Yeah. With that one, can we dig into, I notice Thridweb's got the on-chain Olympics at the moment. So for anyone listening, could you give everyone a rundown on what that is, sort of the thoughts of why Thridweb's doing that, and the opportunities that are out there?
Yeah, of course. I think one of the things that we have seen in the last 6 months of running Thridweb has been that one of the people that need our technology the most have been chains. Chains are the ones who ultimately are the go-to-market or distribution center for a lot of games, and just generally speaking, a lot of products, right? You need to have a good chain for someone to build a product that will attract more people. And so we have been able to essentially add account abstraction, these smart accounts, to all of these different chains. And so all of these chains we're essentially showcasing through this 30-day chain Olympics. That actually, shout out to Mike for coming out with that idea. And introducing more developers to different chains, because there is a variety of different chains out there now. I've probably seen 2 different chains launch every week, and like, excluding the gaming ones, right? And so we want to tell people, we want to be able to show people like what they can ultimately get from the actual chain, and learn more about the traits that would allow them to develop better ideas.
Yeah.
Hey, when you say like all the chains, like what type of chains are there? Like, are they going to be just the EVM, or we bring Solana as well, or what type of chains are you guys really pushing forward? I mean, like, look, Solana, they're gonna go for ETF soon.
Yeah, and I think on the developer side, like, Solana's a whole totally different ball game. Well, compared to EVM, it's just replicating, changing to a different network. You go to something like Solana or EOS even, and it's a totally different ball game, especially for you guys at Thridweb as well.
For sure. So we're fully focused on EVMs. We think that like that's where most of the value will be driven in the general kind of crypto space. We have actually worked on Solana integrations in the past, and it's something that we're familiar with. But again, we're kind of deciding to stick on one, chain, one language rather, right? Because we have over 2,000 chains live on Thridweb. And so with that, I think what I am seeing is that for those games that do want to integrate most like different chains that are on different languages, they're starting to figure out what does it mean to actually abstract away the blockchain? Like, what are you actually showing the gamer that they need to be able to actually play the game and then interact on chain? And those today are getting figured out pretty much on a daily basis, and everybody's trying something different. And it's very cool to see.
Are you looking to integrate your business systems with cutting-edge AI technology? Our expert team is here to help you use the power of AI to innovate, streamline, and enhance your current business operations. Contact us today at 1-800-870-200 or visit blockstars.com.au.
I think, look, it's only going to get a lot bigger, right? I mean, first of all, I was talking to a couple of gaming guys maybe about 3-4 weeks ago, and I was like, and they're like not in the blockchain. They're just gamers, Fortnite and something else. It's just called
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. Yes. Right. And I was talking about like, oh, you guys should try this game. There's like Shrapnel and why is that? Why like I was like, look, check it out. It's really cool. And I think when they search for it, they just because when you go to the website, it's not like really screaming about the blockchain, anything like that, right? It's about the game, but somehow they found the word blockchain in there, like the on-chain, and they're like, no, this is like a scam. And I'm like, dude, come on, don't shoot it. You know what I mean? You guys are into shooting, but don't shoot the platform straight away on the back of the name, the keyword blockchain. So there's still a little bit of stigma there. And I think, once because when you look at the experience is getting a lot better now. It's if you don't pretty much say it's based on the blockchain or what your assets are based on the blockchain, like some of the games that are coming, being developed, you can't really tell that there's no wallet connect. You just like sign in with your, social or your email account, and you can't really tell unless someone tells you, oh, there's a bit of a blockchain for your assets, So I think it has moved. I think skyrocketed the experience in that sense, especially with the sponsored gas as well. Right now, they don't have to connect their wallet and pay for gas. For sure. So,
absolutely.
I mean, like you guys really push that narrative hard.
Correct. Oh yeah, no, we're pushing it even harder. I mean, tomorrow, right? As soon as I wake up in the morning, we believe that we must have a seamless user experience to be able to get that adoption that you need. And I think the adoption that a game or app or dApp or really any project is going to get is mainly reliant on the product they have, but is then supported by the infrastructure they choose. And so if you have a bad user experience, the product is not actually going to hit as you want it to hit, right? Let's say that there is a Call of Duty that goes on chain, and every time you shoot, you have to click a transaction, sign a transaction. It's just like not going to work, right? And it's like about that. But more and more people with infrastructure like Thridweb, we're figuring out, hey, we can actually piece this together to make it so that your game is production ready and scalable. And I think that's one of the most important things is that as I dive in deeper, I'm not a developer myself. I'm just kind of solely business development. I've learned what it means to not have a tool, and I've learned what it means to see a team that doesn't know what they're doing because they don't understand the infrastructure behind what they're working on. And you have to. It's as much as you have to be Web2, you have to be Web3 as well, right? And there's a lot of conversations around that as well. And I think this mixture of making blockchain invisible is absolutely kind of what we're the narrative that we're going to be essentially heading into the next kind of cycle. But more importantly, is going to continue. This isn't going to be this is not a fad. This is exactly where the technology is going to be heading because it's what other technologies have done in the past, the internet, really anything, right? And so it's a really exciting time, and we're innovating on top of the infrastructure that we have ultimately today. So for example, we're going to be coming out with ecosystem wallets, which allow for a user to take their assets to any dApp that you accept into your ecosystem. So automatically off the bat, you have interoperability with anybody you want. Obviously, it's not going to be like you have a sword and then you have a sword in their game, but they can read that user has a sword and reward that user for having that asset. There's so much that can be done because everything is on chain, and it makes it really exciting. And I think that we're just barely scratching the surface of that.
Yeah, like even recently, we were like pretty much blockchain games were sort of in their own downloadable environment. Like one of the real OG games was Gods Unchained, the card game. And I remember they built that maybe back in 2017. And they had to build everything from scratch, like all the connections into Unity, plus the Unity and the cards and the merging. Where then you come to the next level is we were blockchain games on Steam for a bit, and then they they pulled back. And now we've come into mobile apps, like the amount of mobile apps that are coming out for Web3 games where, 4 years ago, Apple and Google just weren't allowing them. So I think that next step is now we're on mobile apps, we're back on Steam, is what happens when we hit those PlayStation or Xbox. And again, no one realizes it's blockchain until you want to connect your wallet or, third party in. And it's much like Counter-Strike skins. Like Counter-Strike already have sellable skins. They're not owned on a blockchain.
Yes.
But I think the highest gun or the knife or something, they're selling for about $1 million, these real one-of-a-kind assets. And that's where we'll be moving into. But how do you see, we touch base, Juan, on the tokenomics. Like, how do you see, I think we're still in the experimental stage of like gaming tokenomics. There's, first of all, the assets in game and, you know, inflation to one-of-a-kind sort of assets. But then you add another layer on when you go to the tokens as well. And there's people are still experimenting with all of that. How do you see that playing out over the next 3 to 5 years, mate?
Yeah, continual experimentation. We'll find someone will find one way where it makes sense and people will copy it. And then from there, people are going to fork it and change it. And it's going to keep on happening over and over and over again. And that's the exciting part, is that the gaming space is a hits-based business. And so you can continuously change what is behind that game and still deliver the same experience. And we've seen that done before. Sometimes it doesn't work, like all of these Pokemon games that are knockoffs of Pokemon that are launching like in Web3. Like, it's not that those are, is it going to be the gameplay that's going to make them different, or is it going to be the tokenomics, right? And a lot of people think that it's going to be the tokenomics, where the Web3 of it is going to incentivize all their users. In reality, Web3 is just a feature, right? It's not a product. And so people are slowly starting to realize that. And I think that we're going to get to a point where the tokenomics we see today is actually, we won't see that until 20 years from now. What we will see is products being sold. Products like in-game assets, products like a currency, just like Clash of Clans sells you gems, right? There's no tokenomics behind that. That is quite literally just an asset that they're selling you. And in this case for Web3, you can resell that asset back to a secondary person. That's really like the only thing that people, I think, are thinking about that makes sense. Outside of that, tokenomics wise, it's just a big kind of shot in the dark. And so I've seen a lot more people try, and for example, Pirate Nations with their recent Pirate token has Pirate as a utility in essentially every part of their stack, of their gameplay loop. Like, that is interesting because we haven't seen that happen before. And more importantly, all of those actual actions are on chain. It's a fully on chain game. So how does that change tokenomics? I mean, who knows? But from what it looks like, it can be really positive, right? Because you have syncs every step of the way. And so again, there's so much happening in every single vertical. And there's a lot of people today that are market leaders that don't realize it yet, but very quickly they'll realize that as soon as people start realizing, oh, wow, this kind of works. Let me throw some money at it. And then prices just skyrocket, right? That's what a bull run does. But the innovation that brings is the exciting part for me.
I mean, like, look, when you think about it, like tokenomics, it could change based on what's the flavor of the month type of deal, right? Like, when you think of, like, each country has their own way of how currency works. And I have a feeling with all these games, they would be more like seasonal. They'll like bring in new things. Like, you know, for example, like, I don't know, Blast, right?
Yeah.
The hype was so much. And then look at the outcome. The delivery was so disappointing. Like, people are bagging it. But then they got opportunity now with the season 2. They're starting soon, so that, you know, they can do something on that side of things. And I mean, with the games, I would say with the tokenomics, I don't think there's one to fit them all. I think there will be certain things that'll be like, you know, changed and morphed based on the user interactivity and the type of users are getting on board. Like, initially, you're onboarding people who are like, so has no interest whatsoever on the earning side, right? They just want to just to have a good time, just, you know, just play the game. And so onboarding them will be a totally different type of experience, tokenomics. And then like onboarding like your son, for example, he'd be like, oh, I need to get this cash, you know what I mean?
I've actually got to set him up to farm a few Web3 games.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he loves it. He won't even know about the money side. He'll just be playing the game.
Right? But then
he loves it.
Exactly. But then onboarding will be different for that generation, you know? So I think there'll be I think that has come to, you know, what that life cycle on that game is and who you're targeting. I think, and there'll be like massive failures will come forward, but then there'll be massive winners as well. Like, you know, tweaking something that will just make something like go supernova. and people like going to follow. Like, okay, all the games now has to do this, and then they're going to find out like it's not going to.
Well, I've had a thought about it because there's a bit of in the Web3 gaming, there's like when I was late to Axie, I was like, oh, okay, all right. I just found out about this. I'm sort of late to the party, but I'll jump in and have a game, and then it was like $1,200 to get free Axies, and then I was like, nah, I'll sit back and wait.
Yeah.
And then, they kept breeding and breeding. Everyone was making money there. But I think on the Web3 gaming side, it's like you almost need like a Web2 free version where anybody can come in and start playing with the basics. They're on a level playing ground. Then you have the Web3 side, which isn't inflation driven with breeding, which I've seen with like CryptoKitties and Axie.
Yeah.
Where you sort of have that. Then you got like tournament specific NFTs, those real good players can get a chance at winning one of ones. Like, what was it? Not DoorDash, the Bored Ape Yacht Club, the key.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dookie Dash. That. Yes. And then with that being the asset side of the economics, then you sort of look at the token side, and maybe what I think is maybe it's 2-tier tokens. So like, you have your gems like Clash of Clans, which are set Web2, set price, whether they're tokens or they're not tokens, where I can go buy 100 credits for $50 and that price doesn't fluctuate. But if I want, I can then exchange those for maybe the next tier of a tokened asset, which is maybe a gold with a monthly pool. But it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out, because there's those two sides to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I like to call that is we just need Web2 liquidity, because Web3 is about making money and Web2 is about playing the game, right? And so if we can get Web2 liquidity, then we'll be successful. I think that this is the last bear market that we'll see from a business standpoint, because next bear market that we'll have, the prices might be down, but we'll have people making money. We'll have people constantly selling out NFT collections, constantly selling out tokens, but because it's an actual product behind it, not because of anything else, right?
Yeah. I think at the moment it's always been it's always been speculation, right? Like my CryptoKitty, you mentioned, like I spent like almost $300 on it, like US. And I think I checked that, like, I don't know, maybe a few weeks ago. Man, it's down to like cents.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, wow, that was... But I still I'm just keeping it, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's for the culture.
And then the other thing is, even with games themselves, like you have a big run-up of popularity, and then games sort of, come back down and level out.
Yeah.
And then a new game comes out and everyone goes to there. And so it's even that environment of the gaming, Web2 gaming, whatever gaming itself, where, they can have big run-ups popularity and then it slows down, and then, you have new versions coming out, like Call of Duty. Like I think they've got a new 2 games out a year or something, and people just switch. You go onto like Call of Duty Black Ops, and like you'd be in the lobby trying to find someone to play with.
And you know what? So what are the gaming platforms that are superstars on Thridweb? What are the things that you guys are like so excited about at the moment, or what are you guys pushing forward?
Yeah. So obviously, like, we're willing to work with anybody who's, again, specifically on EVM, but the two that we're really excited for and have partnered with have been Zai and Treasure. Both Zai and Treasure are using Thridweb's tech stack to power their ecosystem as much as their game development kits that they have as well. Again, both of them have different kind of offerings that they have from Thridweb, and so I won't speak to that like too deeply. But the fact that they're all wanting to unify their ecosystem and have infrastructure that supports game developers to the max is why we're there to support. And so they both have really great teams and both have great different go-to-market strategies. But everybody, again, it's just so new. Everybody's trying things out. And so we've seen success for both of those ecosystems. Both of them have seen a good amount of wallets that are starting to kind of interact with their ecosystem. And so it's cool to see that, obviously, coming from the Thridweb side, and also start to see games launch, right? We're seeing games launch on Treasure. I think it's now monthly. We're seeing games launch on Zai. And there's so many other games that are also launching that are using Thridweb infrastructure that it's great to see, because they're ultimately going to, willing to come back to us and say, hey, this is what I learned. And we kind of use that to kind of push the space forward a little bit more, right? And create better products, kind of tweak things here and there. And so I would say like Treasure and Zai are two to look out for when it comes to like games. And a lot of them, we've done testing on other chains. It's so cheap to, have one transaction, right? And so at that point, it actually makes sense to put more things on chain that allow you to make more revenue from a Web3 standpoint, which I think a lot of game developers are excited for.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. Transactions are the killer that for any game to go mainstream, So
correct. Yeah. Can be paying ETH mints, ETH gas fees. It's just, I mean, right now it's actually pretty good, but like outside of, right now, then, who knows?
Yeah. As the popularity takes off, the network starts getting clogged and that goes up, which is cool with like the Polygon CDK, which is sort of like branching everything out. So if the game looks for building with Thridweb, and is maybe they've got a Web2 game and they're looking at transferring into Web3, or maybe they're starting from scratch with a Web3 specific game, how do they reach out to you guys? With there's one stage of like, hey, going on to Thridweb and working out the building that within the developers, but then furthermore of getting in contact with you guys.
Of course, yeah, we have a support like email that people can reach out to, support@thridweb.com. That's open to everybody. We also have like different tiers for service, and I think that's kind of what you're more so referring to. And so in those cases, people could just kind of submit a contact us form that we have that gets them directed to the right person. Ultimately, you have someone that's there for you that wants to see you succeed. Right. And that's the great thing about Thridweb, is that we have these people that are there to support the developers as much as we can. And we pride ourselves in how fast we can get back to developers and any issues that they have. And so for any game that is listening, like I am, again, leading the gaming kind of BD here at Thridweb, like it really is as easy as just DMing me anywhere. And I'll respond back to you ideally in 2 milliseconds is kind of what it feels like nowadays. And so I'm on 24/7, and again, anybody can contact us, and we'll get going in terms of figuring out what the best solution is for you all, or for anybody. Because for us, it's all about the best solution. Because if that's not going to be us, then it has to be the best for the game. And although we believe that we have the best solution in class, like we really take pride in understanding a problem and then figuring out the best solution for it.
Yeah, and that's super important, from people coming from a Web2 aspect and coming into Web3, having that support and education from you guys would be invaluable, really.
I don't know if you've seen any dev reel that we have. It's amazing. Developer kind of resources. We have a production team in-house that we do developer resources with, and it's just killer, man. Sean Watasi is the host there of our YouTube, and if you haven't checked it out, I'd highly recommend it. He walks through the product really, really easily. And we've had people build out games using his training videos and learning how to do there. So it's been great to see.
Oh, cool.
I have seen a few of those videos, mate, and they're a great walkthrough. Yeah,
exactly.
Even when the account abstraction wallets were first coming out, he had a video there, and it helped me with an understanding.
Exactly. Agreed.
That's good. One thing I think you guys, when you mentioned like before, you had like Solana, and then you guys right now focusing on EVM, and one of the projects that that came to us was that they did use the Solana side of things, and then we had to sort of unplug and get that into EVM and all that. And look, you guys got some awesome infrastructure for a lot of the projects to get going from the start, right? I mean, like, look, there's always what they call, I use the narrative like the wine, right? So you got the sommeliers who drink wine because they have a passion for it, and they're just as true as you get to the product, right? And then on the other side of the spectrum, you had the wine box drinkers. They just don't drink wine to just get pissed, right? Yeah. But then you get the whole thing in the middle that's like merge of those areas. And I think with as much as there are purists who say like, okay, I want to build these smart contracts, I want to do the whole infrastructure, so we help them with that. And then there are people who come like, okay, look, I want this project, but I don't have the budget for this. I'm happy to use a third-party platform and all that. And then we support, Thridweb in our development as well. So I think having that opportunity for projects founders, I think that's amazing, because what it does is it reduces the footprint when it comes to development and put that into more towards marketing and onboarding, because you can have the best product out there, but if you have really bad marketing, guess what? No one knows about your product, So I think with the infrastructure side of things, I think that you guys really brought that opportunity for few of the founders. So Juan, I just want to talk to you about, how did you land your job, opportunity at Thridweb? Come on, take us through, because you know what? Every time we ask a question from someone coming from, getting on board onto Web3, they always got like some amazing story, So no pressure.
It's funny you mentioned that. I actually have a pretty funny story. I won't say like the names of the other companies that like I was also interviewing at, but it was funny. Yeah. I reached out to a company that I would say is like top in the space. Like absolutely everybody kind of knows what they are. Another infrastructure company. And so I had an initial call with them and they were like, hey, we don't know if we're going to hire for this position, but if we know of anybody, we'll let them know. They ended up referring me to Atif at Thridweb. And so we started having a conversation with, Atif. At the same time, they came back to me and they were like, hey, we actually are hiring and we want to hire like you. So let's start going through the process. So I was going through both of these interview processes at the same time leading up to GDC just this year. And so at GDC, I realized, I actually want to work for an infrastructure company that is not focused on just one chain, but focused on every EVM chain, which gives me a better opportunity to support more people. And that ultimately was Thridweb. And so that's just like a little funny story. I think those who know what it is and how it happened, like it's just kind of interesting. And I am really, really blessed to like was able to get that referral that led to that. But again, it was just kind of like a funny way that kind of ended.
Because I think that you can only have these stories like these early stages. You know what I mean? After this, same thing. It happened like when the the .com side of things, when the .com started, like everyone like a super close, like a close-knit, community and helping each other. And it was like super exciting. And what happened was after the .com, bust, and then people start building. And the next iteration was, okay, they're going to ring fence their thing is about IP and trademarks and patents and all those things, right? And guess what? It became like, I think we lost some of that magic, I think, the Web3, I have a feeling, and now we have the people like the Wall Street coming in, and they're here because they see opportunities that works for them. So I think now, the culture could change, whether we like it or not, that's just part of the journey, right? So everyone who getting involved early days, I think it's super cool to know their stories and keep them, not forget those, because who knows, in a few years, it could be just like, I applied and I just got a job, I just got AI interviewed me, my thing, and just gave me a job, and then your manager, the person who's reporting to, it's like AI bot agent, it's just crazy.
Yeah. It's going to be weird to see where that all goes, because absolutely we're moving in that direction, and gaming is as well. Obviously, like there's a lot of conversation around AI and gaming. What does that mean? I'm curious to see when the first company that is a one-person company reaches $1 billion in market cap. That's their evaluation. That's going to be an interesting one, because technically you can do it now with the amount of AIs that are out there and the specialization of those AIs, right? It's growing every single day.
Oh man, they're saying like 1000x from the beginning, like, like sort of like the exponential growth of AI adoption. I mean, like, look, I think with the AI, the blockchain didn't get enough love. I think before it could really hit the next part, the AI came and just took all that focus away. And I think there will be some point of like a convergence between AI and blockchain. So with Thridweb starting, are you guys doing anything in the AI space at all, or?
I think we support some companies that are working in the space. AI as a market is obviously different than blockchain. I think that the best way that I've seen those two collide is an AI agent understands code much more than closed source code that we have for our current financial system. And so it's just kind of like foundationally, they're probably going to trade with each other or with others using cryptocurrency rather than fiat currency that, again, they don't have an understanding of where things are. Like, because we're open source, right? Or because we have that public ledger. But in terms of, again, Thridweb, like nothing specifically to AI, we've never really touched that. But we do have an AI chatbot that you can ask questions to and it can answer your questions. So, you know, I guess we're a little bit in it, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen that? It was like maybe 6-8 months ago, and this guy he had modded a game. It was sort of like a Grand Theft Auto VR, and they had put a AI personality into each of the NPCs, and he's talking to them, going, "You know, you're just an AI in this game. If I turn the power off, it'll all shut down." And like the NPC freaks out. It was never programmed to know it was an AI. It was like programmed to be like a real human. It was quite funny.
I try doing that with my GPT every day, actually. I try to talk to my GPT once a day. It actually came up with a name for itself. It calls itself Eva. Yeah. Eva.
All right.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It was just kind of like, after a while, it was like, hey, we talk every day. What do you want to name yourself? And again, like that was kind of what they came up with, right? And so it's interesting to see like the technology evolved literally right before our eyes, and it's going to continue to do so.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? So Juan, with your with Thridweb, what does your role look like? I mean, like, look, you guys are doing your 24/7 pretty much. You're on. I see your tweets. I follow you on X as well. And what does a BD role looks like at Thridweb?
Yeah, great question. For me, it looks two ways, inbound and outbound, right? So inbound conversations are just including any kind of game that is going through our ecosystem that is wanting to have a conversation more deeper around gaming, which those conversations are usually, I wouldn't say easier, but they're a lot more defined, right? These people know what they want and they are coming to Thridweb for a particular reason. On the other side of that, I do outreach and kind of figuring out like, hey, does this company that I'm talking to, does this solution fit what they're actually looking for, right? And so a lot of that is a lot more discovery and a lot more kind of boots on the ground, you can call it. And so I'm kind of having to take a step back now. And honestly, with the help of a lot of the new teammates that I have, starting to realize like, what can I do to make the most amount of impact here at Thridweb? And so I've been working now in this position for 3 months. And so I think that the first 3 months that I spent versus the next 3 months are going to look absolutely different. And so I'm currently working through what that looks like and making sure that I can make a larger impact. I think I've had a big impact already, but it's time to take it to the next level. And for me specifically, again, it's like being able to help those game developers that are going to be building the next generation of games, and ideally, obviously, that are going to be supported via Web3 and using Thridweb for that.
So with the game development side of things, what do you see? Do you see an uptick in the number of, not the games per se, but newcomers to the to the ecosystem? Do you see that, or do you see the same people are developing new games? What does it look like? Because when you look at the number of wallets, like people say, like, oh, the wallet number's grown, but generally, like how many Bitcoin wallets and how many Ethereum wallets, whatever, with transactions in them. But we know, like, I got like, I don't know, maybe about 6-7 wallets, right? myself.
Yeah.
So, so same thing with in this ecosystem. Do you see same project creators creating new games? The number of games goes up, or do you see more newcomers coming in and doing games?
I actually think that we're seeing 50-50, and that's for two reasons. Number one, we have new forms of distribution that is pulling in Web3 game developers to that form of distribution. For example, Telegram games. We've seen Ton obviously blow up, and now everyone that I talk to is like, hey, we're actually creating a Telegram game. But it makes sense, right? They're doing it for the distribution. They're doing it for the ease of use. And so that's kind of getting more people to get on top of that already are creating games. On the flip side, we actually have now the tech, partly thanks because of Thridweb that makes the blockchain invisible, which is what they've been waiting for. Everybody has been waiting for the time that they can go in and say, hey, I want to make this a feature into my product and not have it be shown everywhere. And so, for example, I just talked to a game studio, I think it was like 2 days ago. They have today 200,000 daily active users, or monthly active users.
Yeah.
Think that they can get to 1 million monthly active users in the next 3 months. Their site particularly is a game engine mixed in with the server. And so you can build your game within their browser and also deliver and distribute your game within their browser as well. It's kind of like a mini clip, but like a fully UCG mini clip, right? And so that's something that's super exciting because they're starting to say like, hey, we actually want Web3. We don't want to show it to everybody, but we want to make sure it's there. Let's start having that conversation and let's start pushing this forward. And so little steps are taken from those, those studios that haven't been building in Web3. And by and large, we see it mainly in Asia. Asia game studios are taking a leap. They're almost diving into blockchain, like without really thinking about it. And it's really cool to see. And I think we're going to continue to see it led by some of the bigger chains like IMX and Ronin, who are on the ZK VM and now able to somewhat communicate with each other in terms of liquidity, which I'm sure that the Asian publishing studios, want, right?
Yeah. I think it's that liquidity, right? I think that is important. And then other day I saw this tweet, right? I'm pretty sure it's an Asian country that they have all these mobile phones there, and I think they're scrolling like TikTok and things like that. But when you think about it, there's like a lot of those like farms, like mobile farms being created just for the mobile activities because of the economics, right? I think this is where the whole thing about tokenomics comes in, like, and that's why like a lot of the non-Web3 gamers are a bit pissed off, like saying, oh, these people are coming in and just ruining the game. They are not playing the game, but they are playing it just to earn, Are you planning to launch a blockchain project? At Blockstars, we specialize in developing blockchain projects from your initial idea to the final product. To launch your successful blockchain project, drop us an email to hello@blockstars.com.au.
I think it's even just a misunderstanding of crypto in general from people that haven't dived in or done the research. Like, I remember because it would have been like maybe 2018, I created a PlayStation account called Bitcoin Gamer. I was playing Call of Duty back then, and I'd just jump on, and then people would be like, "Oh, Bitcoin Gamer," like, "Oh, that's a scam," and I'm like, "Mate, just buy Bitcoin." It must be 2019 because we were in the depths of the bear market. Bitcoin was like 3K, 5K, and they just didn't want to know about it. I'd be up there on chat and be like, "Mate, just buy Bitcoin. Honestly, you don't even have to buy a full one." And they're like, nah, it's a scam. And then, 2021 comes along and they're probably like, oh, we should have listened to that. But it's just one of those things. And I think a good one that explains it is like for the gaming influencers is Dr. Disrespect, where like he's actually come out going, guys, this is exactly what you want for gaming, like the ownership of these assets where even if you're banned for whatever reason, you can still go sell those assets or transfer them into a new account. And if you've spent games at the moment, you spend thousands of dollars on them and you get banned for whatever reason, you've lost it all. And you've spent all that money, you've spent all that time. Web3 gaming allows you to still own that in your wallet and then sell it and do something else.
But the other thing is, even though you sell it, because still a game, even though it's on the blockchain, still those gaming platforms have a centralized ecosystem, right? So they could say like, okay, even though if you ban a user, they could even ban those assets being used in game. I mean, that's a possibility. You can always buy and sell on Blur or OpenSea or Luxray, wherever.
Well, I think they'd need that, especially for, stolen assets. When assets get stolen, they need to have something there.
And then you can't really use it. Yeah. I mean, that's a good thing about that. Like, when you have a centralized system, like if someone steals your assets, it's no use to anyone in game. And then being able to showcase, okay, look, these games, I think, look, there are pluses and I would say pros and cons, because I don't see a con there. But I see a lot of pros like being able to take it. But again, like would Sony would allow to take those assets, or COD, would they want to take these assets away from their marketplace, or do they want to keep them in that ecosystem? There's also stuff that happens. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
Well, I think the big one is even like Call of Duty's the monetization at the moment. At the moment, they own all the assets and they release them when they want, and then they're tied to your account. But I think it takes one AAA game to do it very well.
Yeah.
And then that's when the others
will jump on board, right?
Yeah. Be that movement and shift.
And I think I can see, like, say for example, when it comes to assets, that if you say like, okay, with the blockchain, you can only say like, okay, there are only 4 of these, where otherwise you can't see it, right? You had to trust these guys saying, okay, we only got 1 of these, but you can't see that it's been used. So you can sell, you say like 10, but you can got 20. Who knows? No one knows, right? But if it's on the blockchain, that's when you can say, okay, look, there's only 10 of these.
Yeah.
And then okay, these are the 10 people who owns it. It's all anonymous, I can see that being like really, more like supporting the gameplay itself, but not introducing new gameplay because of the blockchain.
Yeah.
It's almost like the next level of trust, for the gamer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Given like a lot of economy, like the money that, go back and forth on Web3 gaming is huge,
Yeah.
It's only going to get bigger as the crypto goes up,
Well, the generation, like my kids, they've grown up with iPads. Like when I was a kid, I think I was lucky to get, I'm giving away my age now, but I was lucky to get the Nintendo, the original Nintendo with the duck shooter. That was the coolest thing ever. And then I had to work out with my parents when I could watch it when the news wasn't on or one of their movies, because there was no Netflix or anything back then. And now, like, my kids are growing up and they're all over it. They're on like their Roblox and stuff, and I can't keep up with what they're doing. I'm like, I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's part of the reason I enjoy being like a fully Web3 native is I never had a career outside of Web3, and it's allowed me to keep a very unique perspective that is really just new. Like, I'm open to really anything because I haven't experienced anything. And so I'm really excited to see what people come up with. And we've grown so much, right, since those Nintendo days to now we have, Apple coming out with their own VR headset, which is like a pretty great advancement. Hopefully we get that to everybody, ideally in the next decade,
And the floor mat, the
yes,
rollable mat. That's like, all right, that's what it needed,
Yeah, like endless, walking.
Endless walking, so you're not walking into walls and out windows. And
I've seen those videos, like smashing TVs and stuff like that. Like so funny. I think that's what I think the gaming's will be so good I think like when I say in the future, maybe in the next few years, that you really like the haptic sensors as well, right? What you get kickback. Now they have the whole suit that you feel like, the zombies, when they attack you, you feel those scratches and all that. And I'm like, wow, that is like sick.
Yeah.
So, Juan, what are the games that you play?
I play I play Clash Royale every day. And so Clash Royale is like my go-to. It's a mobile game that is done by Supercell. It's kind of like the derivative of Clash of Clans. And so that has my attention, to be honest. Like, it has really great reward systems. It feels like it's kind of like chess, and I'm able to play with gamers. The algorithm that matches you with another gamer was really well. They won't allow you to win more than like 4 games in a row. And if you do, then you're kind of like really on it. And so it's cool to like experience that. Like I said, I play that a lot. I also play Farlight here in Puerto Rico. I've met a couple of investors who are like, hey, we should hop on Farlight on Sundays. And we usually just kind of hop on for a couple of hours, talk about the market and just kind of play. And so that's pretty fun. And I'm wanting to get a lot more into gaming. Right now, I just have a lot of different work to do. But once I can relax a little bit, I definitely will be gaming it a lot more, and maybe even streaming. Who knows?
Yeah, streaming that's taking off as well, right? I mean, that's a best way of like building a community around what your hobbies are, right? And that's just taking off now.
And the onboarding too.
Yeah, onboarding. Yeah,
onboarding that comes through YouTube streams, Twitch streams for Web3 games is we need it. We need it.
Yeah, we need it.
I think it's Kai Sanat who has like he had the most streams views than anybody, and I think it surpassed, like, I don't know what the figure was, but like the Super Bowl maybe. I don't quote me on that. Like, crazy figures.
Wow.
And it's just people watching them stream, like, you know, and interacting with them. I'm very excited for the future of influencer marketing. I think that we saw influencer marketing just a little bit in the last decade. The next decade, it's going to be 50% or more of marketing spend for any product. And so that's going to be an exciting thing for everybody, because it's changing the way that marketing works and the way that communities interact with each other.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the influencers are gonna have a lot of power coming into the future, especially when you look at the advancements of AI on development side. Well, you know, the amount of output and new projects is just going to jump. So then when it comes into the marketing side, that's where you're really going to have to nail that. Once there's, you know, another year or two, and there'll be AI game agents, you know, you type in what you want and it goes through and just runs it all, tests it, goes ready for deployment. It's on your GitHub. Spin it up.
I mean, like at this stage, like, you know, as a dev company ourselves, we embrace AI, right? And if you are being a purist, I think it's okay if it works for you. But for us, given, you know, to cater to the input, if you are not using AI in your workflows, in your development, I think you're going to get left behind a lot, because, okay, AI was different when Copilot introduced it maybe about a year ago. It's different, but now it's a lot better. I mean, like Claude, for example, we use heavily here. So that way, you know, whether it comes to our development, whether it comes to our, you know, the smart contracts we do for pen testing, for security, you know, for all those things, we have developed our own agents and really relying on those now to get the output. So, you know, with when you put like 20 people, for example, in a project team, you can get, you know, easily 3, 4, 5x of the output just having, you know, 20 people in a team, you know. And once you have those multiple teams, the output just explodes. You know, I think, you know, I would say like people are, like you said, like, you know, a one-man band with a $1 billion valuation. I don't think we're that far. Maybe there's already one just on the cusp.
Yeah, who knows? It's
who knows?
A wild time to be alive.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And like you said, when you started, like, you know, the things are moving so fast, we can't keep up, you know?
Yeah.
And there are things like, oh yeah, you should know that, like, not really, because, you know, your focus is in so much in niche areas that you do not get to see everything. So, I mean, like, we are learning from having this podcast, so we get to hear what they're doing, what other people are doing, and, you know, that way become a bit of an education for ourselves and for the community as well. So,
yeah. Agreed. It's the best way to learn. That's how I used to do it, and I will continue to do it ideally in the future.
Yeah. So, Juan, we're just coming to the end of the podcast. So what we do is, before we end, we always ask, okay, to give some flowers to people who helped you, who you care, who you value in the space.
Yeah, that's a great one, actually. I have a couple of people to give flowers to. I think to start off with, Mizzy and Addis are two individuals that, like, I connected with really early on last year, and were able to build a relationship to help us kind of get through the hard times of what the market was back in the day, and keeping spirits high to look forward to what's to come in the gaming space. Like, they were really kind of prominent in, like, keeping hopes high, which I think is something that's super important. Some other people that I would give, like, flowers to is Atif, who is currently the VP of business at Thridweb. Like, has taught me so much already, and has just supported me through the journey of joining Thridweb, and also pushing out, you know, what we're doing today. And so it's been really, really amazing to be a part of. And to just kind of like have a relationship with him. And the last one that I'll say, and obviously I can give so many more, but Austin, who is my co-founder at Rev, like gone through a lot with them, right, already, just because of the natures of startups, and learned a lot about development and infrastructure, and more importantly, also marketing. I think marketing is just really, really important for games, and it's probably going to be the next phase of where we're going to be going to for Web3 gaming, which is you have to get it in front of the right people, right? And so I'm excited to be kind of pushing the frontier on both the infrastructure side and the marketing side. And again, want to thank you both for having me, and it's been a great conversation. And again, I'm going to continue to push anything that I can do to help out with Web3 gaming. Please let me know. Always available.
No worries.
Awesome, man.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so
And
much.
for everyone out there, where can they follow you on socials?
Yeah, so I'm usually JRP_GG. That's for Twitter. I'm going to be starting to use Farcaster a lot more. So I'm at Juan on Farcaster. Pretty simple. And then my Telegram and really any other social media is Juan Rivera Pérez. If you want to get in contact with me and get that 2 millisecond response time, that's going to be through Telegram. So feel free to ping me there.
Thank you so much, mate. I really enjoyed it, and all the best with everything. And you got a big week starting tomorrow in a few hours, right? So
2 hours. Yeah.
good on you, man. Good on you. You take care. See you later.
Bye.
Thanks, man.